I've got another 30 days to be Speaker, and I'm going to make the same decisions the same way I have over the last 4.5 years to make sure that we're passing conservative legislation that is good for the country.
As if things couldn't get more interesting as we steamroll toward November and the POTUS election next year, add to the mix Democrats rubbing their hands with glee over the resignation of the House Speaker, Bill Clinton blaming the media for everything that slapped at Hillary's campaign, what some are calling a resurgence of Tea Party power, and Jeb Bush being put on notice to politically man up, or else. Unlike the political animal, let's see where we go from here. Ron Christie's the former Deputy Assistant to Vice President Dick Cheney and a veteran political strategist. Judson Phillips is founder of the Tea Party Nation, one of the largest Tea Party groups in America. Might imagine he's feeling pretty good at the moment about doings in Washington these last few days. Gentlemen, thanks so much for joining us. Judson, I'll begin with you. Are you indeed rubbing your hands with glee that John Boehner is gone? And what about those who now say this will bring the Tea Party even more back into power?
Well, I'm not quite rubbing my hands with glee. I'm pleased to see him go because I considered him to be an impediment. But I'm looking with apprehension to the future because if we don't have a plan, we're not going to get ahead. We're not going to win. And right now, we don't have much of a plan out there, and that's what we need. We got to have a plan, a conservative agenda, and we need to put some conservatives in charge, not just folks who want to make the trains run on time.
All right. Now, Ron Christie, there it is to you coming up next, because that's what I think a lot of people are worried about right now, that this is happening. There's a Grand Canyon-esque gulf that's here right now. There's chaos going on, and the Republicans are going to lose track and lose focus, and this will help the Democrats. How do you think?
Well, I think that's exactly right. And, better to dance with the devil you know as opposed to the one you don't. I've been friends with John Boehner for 24 years. I like him. I respect him a good deal. But when you start looking down the leadership ladder, Ed, of who's up next, Kevin McCarthy, the current majority leader from California, gives some conservatives pause. I'm pleased to hear, actually, Dr. Tom Price from Georgia, very conservative, stalwart, is being talked about as the next majority leader. So if we don't necessarily get as strong of a conservative as we'd like to have be the next speaker, at least the next majority leader potentially would be a stalwart, at least in my opinion. Now,
you mentioned Kevin McCarthy. Here's Speaker Boehner. He said exactly that. He believes that he is the right guy for the job. Here's what he said.
I'm not going to be here to vote on the next speaker, but that's up to the members. But having said that, I think that Kevin McCarthy would make an excellent speaker.
All right, Judson, what would be wrong or what would be right about Kevin McCarthy?
Well, probably the worst thing to start with is that John Boehner endorsed him, because I think that should be the kiss of death right there. As a practical matter, I don't see Kevin McCarthy just being a heavyweight in Washington. I looked back over his history. I don't recall him chairing any committees. I don't recall him sponsoring any legislation. He's almost like the guy who isn't there. And so that concerns me a great deal. Now, having said that, he has listened to conservatives in the past. There is some conservative legislation that has gotten through the House that we like a whole lot that would not have happened had he not at least tacitly supported it. But right now, I'm not sure Kevin McCarthy is the guy. We need a guy with an agenda, a plan, and who's got the fortitude to stand up to Barack Obama, Nancy Pelosi, and the rest of the Democrats.
All right. Now, Ron, let me get this to you, because this is something that will speak to Judson, but I want to hear from you. Those people who say that this now will put the Tea Party back front and center. This will create that clash once again between traditional Republicans and the Tea Party, and they don't get along, they won't get along, and the war is going to go right into November, and this is going to hand the Democrats the presidency of the United States. Is that really a possibility here, or are we overreacting?
I think we're overreacting. I think Republicans, it's good actually to have a little family fight here and a family feud to figure out what is our purpose, as Justin said. What is our conservative agenda? How are we going to define ourselves, not only as it relates against President Obama for the remainder of his term, but whomever the Democrats put up for their eventual nominee. So I'd rather have this fight now. I'd rather get this distraction put away now so that all Republicans in the House, the Senate, and those who are running for election or re-election around the country can take the singular focus of, say, how can we best reclaim the White House? So it's better to get this out now than deal with it well into 2016.
All right, 2 minutes left. Let's get something else out here. In 60 Minutes on Sunday, Donald Trump was talking about undocumented immigrants, which is really where his campaign began. And here's where he sort of said that, well, we'll do it, but we'll be nice about it and we'll be humane. Here's what he said.
As far as the families, if they've had a great reputation in the community, if they've done well, They're going out and they're coming back in legally. Because you said
you're rounding them all up.
Scott, you said we're rounding them up in a very humane way, in a very nice way, and they're going to be happy because they want to be legalized.
Judson rounding them up in a very humane way, and they're going to be happy. Honestly, did Donald Trump do himself any favors with those statements?
I don't think he did. I saw that interview last night, and I normally don't watch 60 Minutes, but I think he hurt himself in two ways. Number one, just having these folks basically go through a revolving door across the border and back in, that's a real problem, especially when you have record numbers of unemployed Americans. Second of all, just to really sidetrack real quick, he also talked about wanting to support universal health care, which I think a lot of people who had liked him from the conservative side will take a look at that and go, hey, no way.
All right, Ron, 30 seconds left, though. While Donald Trump did say that, and it really was bad the way he put that, did he then redeem himself earlier today by coming out with his tax plan? We've had economists tell us that he nailed this one, and the Democrats wish they would have said it first.
I don't think so, Ed. I just look at and listen to what he says, and it just sounds strange. You know, who wants to be rounded up humanely? I mean, that's just, A, it's not going to work. B, it's not going to happen.
But will his
and
tax plan bury that, though, Ron? Will the tax plan idea bury that and put this to the side?
Oh, for conservatives, I think it could. I mean, I like a lot of the elements of what he had to say in his tax plan, dealing with marriage penalty elimination, death tax elimination. There are a lot of good things that conservatives like Justin and I could agree on in his tax package that deserve to hear the light of day in Washington.
And unfortunately, we're all out of time. But trust me, we're going to talk about this so much more because I love it with Donald. He gives us plenty of material every single day. Ron, Christie, Judson Phillips, always a pleasure, gentlemen. Thanks so much for joining us. And when we come back, well, we'll just leave it at that. We'll be back. The Hardline will continue.